What's up guys, Sergio here. So today I'm kicking off a new video series where I do voiceover or commentary of the workouts I do. I thought this could be helpful to beginner and advanced lifters by giving more detail and explanations on the exercises I do. So let's jump right in. Alright, so today I'm doing chest. So with chest, and really most of my exercises I like to stay in the 8 to 12 repetition range. Sometimes I like to do as low as 6, but usually it's going to be more 8 to 12. So the first exercise I'm starting off with is incline barbell bench press. I like to do 2 warm-up sets, so starting off with 135, and I'm gonna do usually about 10 to 12 reps of this. My philosophy on warm-up sets has really changed over the years, from where I used to do just one warm-up set, if that, and jump right in. Now I've just learned from my research that it's better to do more warm-up sets because obviously it's going to avoid any type of injury, but also it's just going to allow for your working sets to be really smooth. So after I get done with my 2 warm-up sets, then I'm going to bump it up to 185. With this particular movement, I'm going to be going a little bit heavier than what I usually do, and probably a little bit heavier as far as bodybuilding standards go. Typically, most bodybuilders, or if you're trying to aim for bodybuilding, you're probably going to stick in between the 8 to 12 to maybe 8 to 15 repetition range. But since this is my first movement, I want to start off a little bit heavier, lifting heavy. I'm feeling pretty fresh at this point, so I'm going to work in between a 6 to 10 repetition range. By being able to lift more and being able to do more reps, I am going to be able to build more size. So the strength component, or making sure that I increase my strength, is still a pretty important aspect of bodybuilding. As you can see, I'm not bringing the bar all the way down. I'm not touching my chest, but I'm trying to bring it to about chin level. So I'm still getting a complete stretch of the muscles, getting full range of muscle there. So I don't think for this particular exercise it's not necessary to touch your chest. It really is going to be limited, I think, to your shoulder mobility. So I probably could do a better job of warming up my shoulders so I can maybe get a little bit lower, but I'm still going at an adequate depth. And with that being said, I do like to do pyramid sets, especially for the bigger lifts or the compound lifts. I like to do a pyramid, so like a 10-8-6 or a 12-10-8. That way you're just progressively overloading the muscle. You're always keeping as much stress or tension on it as possible, while also keeping in mind just the fatigue aspect, that you're going to get a little bit more fatigued as each set increases or goes on. So you compensate for that by decreasing the repetitions while still increasing the weight. So you just kind of are still keeping that constant tension. So you kind of trade off the increase in weight for doing slightly less reps. The decline, I just kept all 3 sets at 185, trying to stay in between, trying to get at least 8 reps, 8 to 10, because you usually want to go no lower than 8 when you're really trying to build hypertrophy or size or definition. As you can see, I do have wrist wraps on, and so the wrist wraps really help just to keep my wrist straight and not from bending the wrong way while benching. So wrist wraps really help. They're not necessary, but especially if you're someone who has or has had a wrist injury or has wrist problems, wrist wraps aren't a bad idea. But I found those just to be really helpful if for anything, it just helps me to be more conscious of keeping my hands straight, which is good because it actually allows me to have better form when I'm doing these bench movements, and to just all the more ensure that I'm keeping tension on the chest and it's not being, energy isn't being wasted because I have, bad form holding the bar. So moving on to the third exercise here, I'm doing incline dumbbell chest press. I'm not bringing the dumbbells all the way till they touch. That's one thing that a lot of people like to do. The reason for that is it's a lot harder to do when you have heavier weight, but more importantly, it's not necessary. As long as you're getting that full extension of the elbow, you're going to be fully engaging your chest. Bringing it in actually can potentially disengage your chest and put more of the stress on your shoulders. I've found that when the weight is heavier, when I try to click the weights together, I also have there's always the potential that I can kind of drop the weight, because now that my chest is no longer carrying the load of the weight, it puts all the pressure on my shoulder. And there's been times when I've tried to click it together and I almost felt like my shoulder's going to buckle in. I was going to drop it on my face. So it's not necessary to click the weights together. Just make sure you get full extension of the elbow joint. So here I'm doing 3 sets of 12 on the high end and trying to get at least 9 on the low end. So as you can see, I use a little technique or trick of just popping the dumbbells off my knees to get it into place, and then pressing it up from there. I found that to be the easiest way to do that when lifting heavy weight. So that is the last set there that I'm doing of the incline chest press. And yeah, it's really, I know it looks funny, but it's hard to stand back up with that weight and to rack it properly. So I'm careful when I'm unracking the weights. I'm careful when I'm putting the weights back, because I don't want to injure myself being lazy. So the next exercise, I'm just doing push-ups, really simple, 3 sets of 30, and this I'm just trying to really just make sure I'm hitting all my muscle fibers. So I'm hitting all my bases. So I've done incline, I've done hit the decline. Now this is just kind of working the overall chest from doing a push-up. So 3 sets of 30 is what I'm doing here. I've taken the straps off because it's just hard to do push-ups with wrist wraps on, and my wrist is doing a whole lot better, so I'm actually able to do push-ups and it really doesn't bother my wrist too much. So thankful for that. So yeah, just knocking these push-ups out here. Got 3 sets of 30. I'm trying not to take too much rest in between, which I do a really bad job at. I think that's probably one of my worst habits, of just sometimes my rest periods are too long. But generally, I think rest periods should be anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds. If you're doing heavier sets, kind of like when I was doing the incline bench, you might want to take maybe 2 minutes or so, a little bit longer, but usually just doing 60 seconds to 90 seconds is good. Push-ups probably 30, even though I think I took a little bit longer. You really don't need that much time when you're doing push-ups. The last exercise that I'm going to do is going to be the decline or cable crossover, but putting emphasis on working the decline or the bottom part of my chest. And then I'm also going to superset that with some lateral raises. So even though this is a chest workout, my lateral delts are one area that I know I really need to work on. So throwing those in on a chest day is just a way for me to get extra work on the delts. So decline cable crossovers, I really like this one as a finisher. Once I've hit all my other exercises for chest, it's a really good way to build up the bottom portion of your chest, but also just the center, so to kind of get that barrel chested look, just to build you know, just I guess that cleavage area, if you will. It's a really great exercise to do. You don't need a ton of weight because you really want to have good form. You want to get a good contraction. And I found that when doing the decline or the cable crossover, if the weight is too heavy, your form seems to deteriorate really fast. So making sure that you have really good form on the cable crossovers is important. So don't go too heavy when doing that. With the lateral raises, I start with 20 pound dumbbells, and then I'll work up to 25 for the second set, and then the last 2 sets I'll do 30 pounds. Lateral raises are one of those things where you want to make sure that you're engaging the muscle, and sometimes when you go too heavy, your traps tend to kick in. So it's better to start off light doing lateral raises, and you want to do a slightly higher weight because of that. It just seems that a lot of times, for me at least, my side delts respond better to higher volume and higher repetition. So I might do, you know, as high as 15, maybe even 20 reps on the lateral raises, and probably as low as like no lower than 10, because I just find that along with my calves that they just tend to respond better to just more repetition, more volume. So that's what I do with the lateral raises. And the one other thing I'll say with the lateral raises is that I like to bring them in front of my body, and I've actually done both, to be honest. Sometimes I'll start with the dumbbells at my side and then lift and just raise them up to parallel, but then also sometimes I'll bring them in front of me. And once again, that is just going off of feel, going off of how I feel. Sometimes I just find it more engaging to start with the dumbbells in front of me when I'm doing lateral raises, and other times bring them to the side. I feel like my lateral delts or side delts are responding better. So I kind of switch it up. I go back and forth. As of late, I've been on a kick of starting with the dumbbells in front of me and then bring them up to my side. Another thing is, as you can see, some people might be like, oh man, like what are you doing? You're not bringing your arms up high enough. But really, the side delt is a small muscle. So once your elbow gets to about parallel, the side delt is completely contracted. So there really is no need to bring it way above your head, which you might see some people doing. It's really all about the elbow and where your elbow is relative to the floor. So as long as you're getting that elbow at least a parallel, you should be good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That is my chest day in a nutshell. That's the exercise I've been working with. So hopefully you guys did find this helpful, something a little different. If you guys do have questions, just leave them down in the comment section, and I'll definitely try to answer them as best as possible. But yeah, if you guys did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys have not subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.